Libertarian is.
I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what a libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do, or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what libertarians are all about. Welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. Yes, I'm here again, doing my best, drinking my coffee. The brand is absolutely strong. I keep going doing this. And do me a favor, if you like what I'm doing out here and it matters, please like, comment, share, let people know we're doing this. We, as the Liberty Movement, we cannot grow if we don't build our own media. This is part of our media. Not the only media, obviously, but it's a part of it. So support the part of it. Go out there, like, comment, share, let people know we're doing this. It matters. Again, Libertarians Drinking Coffee, and I'm very, very happy that I have with me today a woman who's played this game before, who's run in the big leagues before. She is here today, Libertarian presidential candidate Jo Jorgensen. How are you?
Hey, Larry. Great to be here. Doing well, thanks.
I am very happy to hear that. Already, we haven't even started, and I got people saying they voted for you.
Great.
Look at that. What a win. So we're rocking and rolling. So I want to ask you, if I could, you've been around the block.
Mm-hmm.
You've done a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You're educated,
mm-hmm.
entrepreneur,
mm-hmm.
ran before.
Yep.
Why president? Why now?
Well, of course, I wanted to run in 2000 because I really enjoyed the VP race in 96. I loved touring the country. I loved meeting libertarians, and I loved being able to spread the message of liberty and talking to callers on radio stations. Back then, it was radio stations and not podcasts.
That's true. Yes, that's right.
However, Harry Brown wanted to run again in 2000. Mm-hmm. And so I think that he was a great candidate. There was no way I was going to run against him because I wanted him to be our candidate again. So this is actually the next best point in my life because I went back to school, and so here I am ready to go. So why I want to run for president is because government is too big, too bossy, too nosy, and often hurts the people it intends to help. So I want to come and spread the message, and I'm glad to be doing it now.
I love that. And for those of you who want more information on Jo, go ahead to www.joj2020.com.
Thanks.
So it's like, for those of you who might know the anime, it's like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. That's a very specific reference. Sorry. But anyway, again, let me ask now, there are, what you just said, there's a lot of issues involved in big government. Obviously, most people watching are libertarians. Not all are, but most are. Mm-hmm. And when you say big government, you've just triggered 1,000 lights went off, right? So let me ask you, COVID has changed a lot with people. Mm-hmm. Prior to COVID, did you have an issue or two that was really like your issues? Like those are the ones at the front of your head.
Well, actually, I had 3 issues. Of course, being a libertarian, I want to get in as much as I can. I didn't want to dilute it too much. Now, of course, the overall message is government is too big. We have to reduce spending. But as far as specific topics, bring the troops home. Turn America into one giant Switzerland. That was one of my top 3. Another one was healthcare, because right now we've got the Democrats racing towards single-payer system, socialism. We have to stop that. It is a life or death situation. And what's really frustrating about healthcare is people are sitting there saying, well, the free market didn't work. They don't realize we haven't had the free market in 60 years. Mm-hmm. And the third topic is the environment, because that is what excites young people, and we need to bring people in by talking about what excites them. So those were my 3 before. Now that we have the COVID.
Hold on. I want to stay with those three. Hold on. I like that. You've
Good.
mentioned more than once. You've said you want to turn America into Switzerland, armed and neutral.
Yes.
Dive a little bit into that one.
So a lot of people, when they hear us say, let's bring the troops home, they mistakenly think that we're pacifists. I'm not a pacifist. I'm not suggesting that somebody just come in and overrun our country, take away our freedoms and liberties, those that we still have left. What I'm saying is absolutely we need to defend our borders. Absolutely we need to keep out other countries. But there's no reason why American taxpayers need to be paying the military bill for rich European countries.
Got it.
Also, we don't need to be going over into Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, because we're just creating more problems. The number one job of the military is to keep its citizens safe. And what the military is doing by butting its nose into all these other countries is actually making us less safe. For instance, Saudi Arabia, we heard from the Bush family that, oh, Saudi Arabia loves us. Well, actually, that's not true. The royal family of Saudi Arabia loved our ruling class, but the people there didn't like us. And if you notice, most of the hijackers came from Saudi Arabia. So, of course, that's not how they feel about us. But if we would just stay away, and of course, I hate to mention this, but since this is mostly a libertarian crowd, I'm sure they will, understand exactly what I mean, which is bin Laden was a horrible, horrible person, horrible. And of course, he should not have done what he did. The reason, however, he was able to get so many people behind him is he would say, look, the Americans lied. Look, the Americans the Americans did that. And he was actually correct that we had lied, that we had made promises, and that we were putting our noses where they shouldn't be. Again, that doesn't mean they had any right to do what they did, but he was able to gather a following. And what I want to do by bringing our troops home, one giant Switzerland, is by remaining neutral. We're not going to be over there where those people can start to hate us. And I hate to say that because it's become such a cliche out there. But yeah, I think
they hate us for our freedoms.
Yeah, I think the reason this became a cliche is because it's true. Because yes, they do hate how we get into everybody else's business, and Americans really don't stop to think, geez, how would I like it if France started stationing troops over here, or France started imposing their laws in our country? We wouldn't like it at all. So we have just become so used to and so comfortable with being the world's policeman that we don't give it a second thought. So I want to stop being the world's policeman, bring our troops home so that we have a safer world. We don't send our young people out there to needlessly kill everybody. We have safer streets here. We don't have people trying to hijack planes and do any damage to us. And by opening the borders to trade, we can be peaceful and have good relations with other countries. And then the job of president would be much less important.
Okay, I like that. All of it to make the job less important. I like that.
Yes.
So let's go to the other one, healthcare, right?
Yes.
Healthcare, I think even prior to the COVID, was moving towards what you said, and moving towards socialism, right? I love, one of the things that I got to give Obama credit for is he called the Obamacare the marketplace.
Yes.
Brilliant marketing. I mean, just amazing marketing. So the average person says, see, it's a marketplace. It's the free market. It's totally the free market. See? And when Obamacare fails, the market failed.
Yeah.
So brilliant, right? That was already happening. So how do we get around that marketing piece, right? I mean, it is good marketing, right? And a lot of people, to your point, say when it doesn't work, we'll see the free market fails. Socialism is the answer. How do we get around that?
Yeah. And first, by the way, you make an excellent point about the marketplace. And that's the first thing I thought when I saw that. And especially because they've already ruined the term privatization.
Yes.
Privatization, if you are a private company, that means you have to earn your customers. You have to provide the best product for the lowest cost. And that's not what privatization now means. Now it means you're a special interest that the contract is. So they've ruined that word. So now they're trying to ruin the word marketplace. Well, first of all, I don't want to say the good news is, but what came from that is Obamacare did make prices go up.
Mm-hmm.
For all the reasons that we knew ahead of time they were going to go up. So at least people could see that, okay, you know what? Obama's plan didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that people are now calling it more the Affordable Care Act than Obamacare. I guess they're trying to maybe distance it a little bit, but it didn't work. So as we knew, it didn't work. So that's a good thing. Now, the bad thing about it, of course, is now Elizabeth Warren and other people are saying, well, this is the reason, and Bernie Sanders, well, this is the reason we need to just have one giant Medicare. And of course, we need to get the message out there that would be like having one giant VA hospital. All the reasons that the VA hospital doesn't work is the reason that this doesn't or wouldn't work.
So I have a question, if you don't mind answering it. Asking about how do you feel about the shutdown in general, right? How do you feel about the shutdown, the way the government did it, and do you have a feeling either way?
Oh, a very strong feeling. Like most libertarians, I think this is the largest assault we've had on our liberty in a long time. And now I'm just hearing the news about the Dallas woman who opened up her salon because she needed to feed her kids.
Yep.
Her stylist needed to feed her kids. And now she's going to be put in jail for 7 days and fined $7,000 just for peacefully offering a service that other consenting adults want to take care of.
And that'll help her kids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
Right. That'll help her kids.
Especially since Texas is opening up. It makes absolutely no sense. And, you know, the thing is, the government was saying basically, okay, the reason we don't want it to spread is because we don't have enough hospitals to handle anything that could come our way. Okay,
Yep.
so then the next question is, well, why don't we? Well, one reason is because of the government laws. For instance, certificate of need, which I think is funny. The con law, like, didn't that maybe occur to you to not name it that? So because the government is conning us with the con laws, now we don't have the services. We've got so many licensing and laws and things put in place, regulations put in place, that we don't have a free market to respond quickly. So, so they're the ones who cause the problem, and then it just builds one problem after another after another. And here we are.
So let's go to your third piece, which is the environment. As a general rule, you know how the mainstream media looks at anything libertarian in the environment. The assumption is all libertarians want to destroy everything and burn the environment down, destroy the planet. We're all evil. That's what I got that all the time, right? The idea that a libertarian would actually have any kind of plan for the environment is almost mind-blowing, right? It's a terrible, I think it's a terrible a negative that we have on us. Tell me, where do you stand here?
Well, yeah, and I'd like to point out that the best defense is a good offense. So let's go out there and let's hit it. And because so many libertarian campaigns just don't address environmentalism.
Yes.
So that gives the impression that, oh, we're scared, we're cowering. No, we need to stand up to them, and we need to go out there and show how, once again, the free market is the best way to handle this. And I would tell people, first of all, get out a globe. Look at where the pollution is. Less freedom equals more pollution, first of all. And I love to talk about specific instances. If somebody says, what about the Gulf of Mexico?
The oil spills, right?
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
Well, once again, under a free market system, they would have had to have been insured. You can't run a business without being insured. But what the government did is they put an artificial cap and said, okay, you don't have to pay any more payments above this level. So they go, okay, fine. So what happens if you've got car insurance that you're not paying for completely, and you don't have to worry if you have a DUI and you start running into people? You're not going to be as careful. So the company was not under the free market threat of having to go out of business. Had it been free market, first of all, they may not have even been able to afford the insurance to cover a catastrophe such as what happened. And if they had and did it anyway, then they would have gone out of business because they wouldn't have enough money to get past it. So once again, people say, oh, greedy companies. And what they forget to look at is, why do the greedy companies have power? It's because the government gives them power.
Yes. So I guess what I'm hearing from you is part of the environmental plan is to pull government out from the big businesses to allow them to have to, kind of pay their own price
right. Let them have
their
the
issues.
Consequences. Right. Absolutely. They should have the consequences of the marketplace. Also looking at nuclear power. So what a lot of people don't realize is that, because they look at nuclear power and they go, oh, but look at all the, all the environmental contaminants that come from it. It's not a good system. And people kind of have a visceral reaction when they hear that. Mm-hmm. Well, what they don't realize is, once again, 40 years ago, when we were looking at different types of nuclear power plants, it wasn't the free market working with each other. It was the government saying, you win. Mm-hmm. And what I like to point out, especially to young people, imagine if when computers first started coming out, imagine it's 40 years ago and we've got, Steve Jobs in his garage. Now, what if the government had looked around and said, okay, you, Bill Gates, we're going to go with one computer. We're not going to have IBM. We're not going to have Apple. We're just going to go with this one. First of all, there's no incentive,
of course,
to have them do a good job. In fact, I teach at Clemson. You didn't give me much of an introduction, but I think everybody knows by now who I am and what I do. But
do you want to talk about it? Talk about it, please.
Oh, yeah. But anyway, I teach psychology at Clemson. Now, unlike a lot of people on the left, and I'm not a professor, I'm a senior lecturer, but unlike a lot of leftist professors, I do not talk about politics, like my pet politics. However, if it fits with the topic of what we're talking about, of course, I'm going to bring it up. So when we talk about progress, and there's a chapter about how competition and aggressiveness, how competition can actually bring about progress. And what I tell my students is, if you have, your iPhone that you think is awesome, guess what one of the reasons is you have that iPhone? Because Steve Jobs hated Bill Gates because basically they hated each other, they competed against each other, and they wanted to outdo the other person. So thank you, competition, we've got the best thing. So that's where we sit in nuclear power. We've got no competition from 40 years ago. Now, the good news is we're starting to have competition now. And by the way, yes, I absolutely agree with the comments here about government not picking winners and losers. That's what happened with nuclear power. The good news is right now there are a lot of different companies, including Rolls-Royce, coming up with a new kind of what they're calling advanced nuclear power. But they're about 1/10 the size of the old plants and much safer. And they're competing against each other. Now, if the government doesn't step in and allows them to continue competing with each other, just like the computer companies have had to, we'll be in good shape.
Good. Okay. I do have a question. Someone's asking, would you support fines for companies that manufacture automobiles that create pollution?
Okay. I would have to think about exactly the mechanism for that.
Yeah.
Somehow somebody needs to pay. Now, whether it's the company or if it's the person who actually drives the car, or you could build it into maybe when you buy the gasoline. So that the more gas, because the more gasoline you're buying, the more pollution you're putting into the air.
Sure.
So I have no problem with people paying for the consequences of their decisions.
Sure.
So, if you drive more and you pollute more, you should pay more. But what I try to do is keep it very libertarian and have the people who are using the resource have them pay for it, as opposed to having all of society pay for it. So again, I hate to have the car company pay for it, because I might, and by the way, I love cars. I love to drive, and the joke where when I used to work at IBM, the joke was have Jo drive you; she'll get you there on time. So
okay, I like that.
And I live in South Carolina, not far from the BMW plant, and so I took a performance driving class there. So yes, I love to drive. So nice. I might be the kind of person who might buy a Ford Mustang. And keep it for 40 years. The 1960s, of course, that was the best Mustang. I hate to, I don't want to alienate, the 1980s Mustang drivers out there, but 60s Mustang, that was a classic.
Okay, so, I'm not going to fight you. Okay.
Well, but maybe some of your viewers out there who are into the 80s Mustang, I don't want to lose their vote because I'm, showing favoritism to 60s, but I might have a 1960s Mustang that's beautiful. It's got 30,000 miles on it. I keep it in the garage with a cover over it. So if the car company had paid for the pollution there, then maybe not, because you don't know how many miles the cars are going to be driven.
So you rather have the end user be the one?
Yeah, only because then it's a more fair way of putting the cost with the person who's actually using the resource.
Okay. So now that COVID has hit us, have any of your key issues either changed or shifted or gone away? Have new ones come to the forefront for you now that we have this crisis hitting us?
Yeah, no, but it's just a great, I still have One Giant Switzerland, the environment, and healthcare. So my top three are still my top three. It's just a great illustration, though, of the the inefficient healthcare system. And I pointed out, for instance, that there were 60 companies making test kits. And by the way, one of them was just over the state line in North Carolina, my neighbor, and only 2 were approved by the FDA. So we've got all sorts of companies in the United States making test kits. Other people around the world, they can buy them, but we can't. The problem is, and this highlights one of the problems with the FDA, which absolutely we need to get rid of. But if you want to take a step-by-step progression, at least put it back to 1962. What a lot of people don't realize is that before 1962, it was only companies only had to prove safety, not efficacy. So now after 62, you have to prove efficacy. You have to show that it actually works. Well, the only way to show that it actually works without beyond a reasonable doubt is to do what they call RCTs, randomized controlled trials. And that's why it's costing like $1 billion
for
every new drug. So what Trump should have done was immediately, Emergency Powers Act said, okay, with the FDA, I'm getting rid of the efficacy requirement. Fine, let's go ahead and make sure they're safe. If you want to keep, because it's pretty easy to show if it's safe, but let's not have them prove the efficacy. Let's let the free market show efficacy. And as far as people saying, well, maybe people put test kits out that don't work. Well, if you're beholden to the free market, you're going to go to business if you keep putting stuff out there.
We actually did put tests out that didn't work anyway.
Right. If you're Eli
Lilly, it worked anyway, yes.
Yeah, if you're Eli Lilly, if you're Abbott Labs, you don't want to put out something that doesn't work unless you're protected by government.
There we go. So let me talk about the elephant in the room, if I may, right? And that may be, you might decide whether that elephant means something else or not, depending upon who you're talking to. Justin Amash has stepped into the race recently, and is getting a lot of buzz, a lot of press, a lot of buzz. Does that change? Does that shift anything you're doing? Any opinion either way on that?
You mean on my race? Does it affect my race?
Does it affect anything? Any opinion on this?
No. Well, first of all, no, I'm still running my race. I still would like to see a homegrown libertarian, somebody who had, one of the jobs of the libertarian presidential candidate is to educate. Now, I'm not saying I'm running an education campaign only. Please don't, I don't want a bunch of comments saying, no, we need to go for votes. Absolutely, we need to go for votes. Absolutely, ballot access. We are a political party. That's what our job is. And also, I want to grow the party membership. That's important. But one of the ways to do that is to explain how freedom and liberty are the best solutions and how we can arrive there. And here's the thing, if you put 10 libertarians in a room and ask them why they joined the Libertarian Party, you're going to get 10 different answers. So you're going to need more than just why you joined the party or what your feelings are. I've been in the movement for 40 years. I've done a lot of reading. I've thrown out a lot of statistics. In fact, I was in a debate recently where I just dug back into my VP campaign and pulled out a statistic from there. So basically, we need somebody who can explain to people, not because we can't use the Barack Obama way of getting elected, hope and change, hope and change. That's not going to work with libertarians. We have to explain it. And somebody who's just joined the party and by the way, notice I have never challenged him on being a libertarian. Mm-hmm. I've never challenged him as being anti-libertarian or that he's got bad ideas. What I'm saying is, assuming he is a libertarian, which I haven't heard his views yet, so I don't know, but assuming he is a libertarian, does he know why all the other people are joining or could join? In other words, is he a good salesman for liberty? So that's why I'm continuing the race, because I believe I am that good salesperson, because I can explain many different reasons of why liberty is the best answer. The other thing is, I do understand the people who say, well, who's heard of Joe? And, granted, I have some amount of credibility. I have a PhD. And I teach at an almost top 20 university. We did cross over the line a few years ago, so I teach at a top-ranked university, so all that's good, but who's heard of me? Nobody. Who's heard of Justin Amash? Well, the thing is, with the virus, I watch a lot of the mainstream media, and I just haven't been hearing his name really out there. Now, that doesn't mean his name isn't going to be out there on the internet, but my point is we're not going to have that multiplier effect this year because everybody's so focused on the virus. I heard of Gary Johnson a lot more 4 years ago than I'm hearing about Amash now. Now, maybe that will change if he gets the nomination. But as I've said, my big complaint about Amash isn't that he's not libertarian, which I don't, we'll see. He hasn't been in a debate yet, so I don't know. But my complaint is he publicly renounced his Republican Party membership a year ago. And he didn't immediately join the Libertarian Party. If he had even not the same day, how about the next day or the next week, take some time, join the Libertarian Party within a week, we would have had a libertarian out there for 10 months. Mm-hmm. And people could see, oh, so that's what a libertarian is. Oh, that's what they believe. And they would have seen that, because we've got, and I talk about this, the stereotype that people have about how libertarians, and this is from the 70s. The first party meeting I went to was in 79, but in the late 70s, early 80s, basically people said, oh yeah, the libertarians, that's just a bunch of rich old white men who are angry and don't like to pay their taxes and like to smoke pot, So now, granted,
that hasn't changed much.
Yeah, that hasn't changed much.
Just saying, hasn't changed much. So the image. Sorry, the party has changed tremendously,
right?
But the image is pretty close still.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now, granted, Justin is not a woman, but he could have dispelled that pot smoking, they just want to legalize drugs, because Justin Amash appears to be a very reasonable, credible family man type person. And people can see, oh, well, libertarians, they're a viable choice. And that was a golden opportunity, and he didn't take it. So for 10 months, he could have been doing that. So that's my complaint, that he could have been showing that, yes, libertarians are a viable choice. Here we are. Here's what we believe. And every time he went against Trump, then people could have said, oh, okay, so that, what, I don't agree with Trump doing that. And I agree more with the libertarian than with Trump. And that's what we needed. And we could have had that for 10 months, and we didn't get it.
Got it. So speaking of that, do you think there is one or more natural kind of niches or, demographics, I'm sorry, not demographics, that would, come to you and go, Jorgensen, that's my candidate. Yep, that's my candidate. Do you think there are a couple who will kind of naturally gravitate towards you?
Well, I can tell you that I have had some women who knew nothing about the Libertarian Party, who, after hearing me speak, said, yes, that's what I want. In fact, I received a wonderful email from and I won't name the state, but somebody who's in state, the leadership in his state. He said he's been a capital L libertarian for like 20 years. His wife never joined the party. She was kind of a small L libertarian. And yeah, she had the impression a bunch of white computer nerds. You know, she saw it a little differently than the outsiders, but she saw it as a bunch of, you know, white computer guys as being interested in something that she wasn't interested in. And she came to the convention, heard me speak, and she decided to join the party.
Nice.
So I'm hoping that my message of compassion and showing how here's how we can solve the problems. Here's how we can solve the problems. I'm hoping that that's getting through and at least bringing some women in. Now, I'm not running on the female card. I'm not saying because I'm a woman, vote for me. After all, I am a libertarian. I think the best person for the job should get it. However, the media keeps pointing out, hey, Trump and Biden, two rich old white guys. I would obviously be a contrast on the stage. Yeah,
look, and I want to be clear, it's a personal issue for me too, because in case you didn't notice, I'm not white. So I guess I'm old compared to some people, but depends how you look at that, right? That's obviously up to the individual. But you know, I don't bring up race all the time, but sometimes it's appropriate, and I think sometimes gender is appropriate, right? As long as you, again, I don't run the race card. I've never seen you run the woman card. No. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't bring it up when it's appropriate, and sometimes it is.
And I actually brought it up, and I actually brought it up for the first time in a debate. And how many debates have I been in? Like 30 debates. I can't even count them all. So for it to take me that long, and it's not, you know, on the website or anything like that, but yeah, this would make the Libertarian Party stand out. And there are a lot of women who when they see a woman candidate, they naturally, you know, they stereotype. You know, okay, well, you must be pro-choice. You must be for minimum wage. You must, you know, so they attach things. And so, you know, a lot of that, of course, would naturally occur. But it would be fun. I don't know if you remember, wasn't it Madeleine Albright who, when Hillary Clinton was running, who said, you know, like, you're a disgrace to all womanhood if you don't vote for a woman.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
So now I can go, hey, Madeleine.
Yeah, I guess I get your endorsement now, don't I?
Yeah.
There we go. I love it. It's very good. So how do we then deal with the fear that is everywhere right now? I mean, people were already afraid of just the left and right paradigm, right? If you're on the left, oh my God, Trump is going to kill us. If you're on the right, oh my God, Democrats are going to give us socialism, the world's going to end. Now add on top of that, COVID, we're all going to die, the world's going to end. How do we get around that fear? Because as you know, psychology, you know this, when people are afraid, they tend to make bad decisions, right? So how do we get around that?
Yeah, they tend to go to their what's called the dominant response. You know,
there
they tend to go to what's safe and what's comfortable. Well, here's the good news, and I couldn't be happier. I look at Michigan. I look at some of these other places where people are just up in arms and storming the state governments. There are a lot of people on our side, people who wouldn't even take a look at us, who are saying, wow, I didn't know that there were people out there who believed this. So I think that we are going to actually get another look taken by people. Because notice the reason that Trump was elected was there were a lot of people who either hadn't voted in 20 years or had never voted. And they were really upset. They felt like they weren't being heard. And so they actually went through the trouble to vote for Trump. Well, now with Trump giving us, you know, all house arrest. Now there are people.
All house arrest. I like that.
Now, well, I hate to admit that's not mine originally. It was, I'll think of his name in a minute. But anyway.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's good. Okay. I'm going to say you told me.
I'm a libertarian. I like to give credit where credit's due. So now, you know, heck, the salon owner in Dallas, hey, come join the Libertarian Party. We're behind you on this. Oh, and by the way, the first Libertarian Party meeting I ever went to was Dallas County Libertarian.
There we go.
Okay. I heard Honey Lanham on the radio. And
so if I hear what you're saying the way we deal with the fear is by reaching out to those people who aren't afraid. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yes, and people who are already on our side and just don't know it.
Got it. Okay.
So that there's somewhere probably between 40, 45 million people out there who are libertarian leaning, who don't like government telling them what to do. They just don't know it yet. Either they don't know it yet, either they've never heard of the Libertarian Party, or they've heard the ugly stereotype.
Right.
That we're rich, ugly white men who hate to pay taxes. And so if we just show ourselves as a viable option, then maybe they'll say, you know what, that's what I'm looking for. So I would like to see the people who normally don't vote. And one other thing I'd like to point out is people often think that we take just from the right, but almost always we take equally from the right and left, but we pull mostly from independents. So that's what we need to do, is get these independents who, like Trump, didn't think it was worth voting. And we need to tell them, hey, guess what? It's worth voting now.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you're saying. And I guess that's also how we create impact, right? Is by getting those people to come our way.
Yep.
Do you think that's enough, in your view, to make the impact that you want to make? And why I'm bringing that up is, I know you want to run to win. I get that. You ran before to win. I know you did. And I know you do it again. But if we don't win, right, the odds are not in our favor, right? That's true. Either way, the odds are not in our favor. If you don't win, have you decided already what is a consolation prize or what's a secondary win? And if you have, how do you measure it?
Yeah, I don't want to call it a consolation prize, but secondary win. I like that.
Okay, secondary win.
That you said is growing the membership, because
okay.
And that's the one thing that I point to that I helped Harry Brown do. We doubled the party size. We brought in 8,500 new members in those 2 years, the largest party growth in history. And that's what I'd like to see again, because in order to get more candidates, state, local, federal, every level, in order to get more supporters, more donors, more people knocking on doors, we need to grow the party. And that's the thing. Of course, yes, Gary Johnson got over 4 million votes, and that's great. But he only grew the party by 7,500 members. So even though Harry and I got far fewer votes, a lot of those people are still here, which, by the way, notice that was one of your
one of my first comments.
Hey, I voted for you in 96.
Yep.
And when I went to the 2018 convention, something that's really rewarding, and this happened to me several times in 2018, people coming up to me saying, I'm in the party because of you. You were the first libertarian I heard speak. You came to our college or whatever, and that's why I'm here. So, glad to finally meet you. And that's what we need. We need more members. And one thing that I did that a lot of people didn't know about, when I went to different states, I would ask them to try to arrange a high school for me to speak at.
Okay.
Because first of all, let's try to change those impressionable young minds.
Absolutely.
And secondly, it was a great warm up to get ready for the convention later on. So, kind of like how comedians will put on their little, afternoon show to kind
Absolutely.
of get the adrenaline going for the evening show. So,
or to get rid of some of the bad jokes.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
My jokes are so bad I don't tell them.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
Oh, by the way, Mark Stein, that's who came up. That's who I heard say house arrest. Mark Stein.
Okay. So I guess if we kind of know what a win is and it's more membership, have you decided what that number is? Is it a percentage? Is it a number? Or you don't really have a number?
I mean, it would be great to double the party membership.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. You always want to at least do as well as your last record, right?
So you got to get at least 8,600.
So
is that what you have to do?
That would be awesome.
Okay, so 8,600.
I would consider that a win. I would consider.
There we go. We got it. So let me ask you: is there something specific that you want to bring up or talk about now that we have an audience that's listening? And I can see from the comments a very positive audience. Is there something you want to bring up and talk about now? Well,
may I ask you a question?
100%, whatever you like.
Because when we set up this interview, you hadn't entered the race yet. And now I learned from Perry Mason, you should never ask a question that you don't know the answer to.
Or that you don't care what the answer is.
Right, in a public forum like this. But you are running for VP. And maybe you've been asked this before, but I've been pretty busy with my own race to, pay much attention to the other races. If Jim Gray did not get the nomination, would you still like to accept the vice presidential nomination?
I would consider it, absolutely. My entire goal, and the reason why I really want to do this, I didn't want to do this. And many people who were watching know this. They've watched me. People asked this question to me before. I'm happy to answer it, though. I didn't want to run at all. I'd run for a year and a half in New York. It, was when I run, I don't have a job. That's my job. That's all I do. So I went a year and a half without a salary, without seeing my family. It was very hard on me financially, emotionally, my family, everything. I didn't want to run. So I wasn't planning on it. But several things happened. One was COVID happened. COVID made me realize, you know what? We might actually have a chance at making an impact here. Because I don't know what this crisis is going to do. Are they going to pin it on Trump? Are they going to pin it on China? Who's going to believe what? Where's the media going to go? I don't know. America can be very fickle. So I have no idea.
It's the largest unemployment since the Great Depression. So
absolutely,
some of the outcomes.
Are they going to blame Trump for the depression? Is that going to work? I have no idea. Right? It's possible. Nothing changes. Yep. But if nothing changes, we're in the same position we were in 2016. Right. But there is a chance that something that happens where we can make some real impact. So my eyes opened up a bit. And then when Judge Jim Gray came in, and for everyone that says, who brought you in? I'm a Gary Johnson libertarian. Gary Johnson brought me in, and my first vote for libertarian was Gary Johnson, Judge Jim Gray in 2012. That was my first. So I'm very loyal to the judge. Yep. So when the judge asked me, I considered it, but then two other things happened. One, the judge had an actual plan. He said, Larry, I have a plan to actually make some impact and maybe win this damn thing. And I said, oh, I like that. Someone came to me asking me for help and said I had a plan. And part of his plan, as many of you know, is to focus on several small states, hope to win those states, and shift it to the Congress. Mm-hmm. And I had said in 2016, that's what I wanted to do for Gary Johnson. The governor didn't want me to do that. I said I would literally pack up, move to that state, live there for 2 months, and hit every single diner, every single local church, every single, VFW for 2 months straight before the election to win a state. The judge knew I'd said that from 2016 and came to me saying, Larry, will you do it again? Okay. And I said, I would consider it. Let me talk to my wife because I love my wife. I've had her for 20 years. I'd like to keep her. Yeah. Right. So she doesn't know who's going to keep me, but I would like to keep her. So I went to her, and within an hour of me going to her, I got 7 phone calls. Larry, you got to do this. Larry, you have to do this. And some of those people who called me were my donors from my 2018 campaign. Mm-hmm. Tough for me to say no to that. Tough for me to say no to the judge. Tough for me to not do the plan that I wanted to do in 2016. Yeah. Tough for me to not support the donors who supported me. It was a hard decision not to say yes. And my wife was like, okay, if you got a plan to make impact this time, go do it. And I have a big issue. People always ask me, Larry, why don't you run? Why don't you run all the time? Because I have a problem asking people for money if I can't give them value. Right. And if I'm going to go out there and say, hey, libertarians, non-libertarians, give me time, money, and energy, I better be able to produce some kind of value. And I believe this time I can. I didn't believe that several months ago, so I wasn't running. I believe that now, so I'm running. So if whoever wins, if they can show me that I can make that same impact, I'm in. If they can't, I'm not in, because if I'm in, what I realize is people ask, why am I running for VP? VP is not running for president. VP is running for support staff. I know. You've done it. VP is running for support staff. So I'm prepared to be support staff and ask people for money. No one's raised more money in who's been active than me in the past 4 years. I've raised $750,000 I've raised for libertarian candidates. No one's raised more money than I have. So you want me to raise money for you? I'll do it. You want me to ask for money? I'll do it. You want me to go out there and campaign? I'll do it. But only if I believe that what I'm asking for, I can give value back to the people who I'm asking time, money, and energy for. So if those things were true, yes, I would do it.
Yep. Well, and you mentioned a couple of things. First of all, yes, I'm incredibly loyal to my donors as well. I mean, they're our customers. And like any business, we have to keep them happy. We have to give them the best quality for the lowest cost. So I'm completely with you on that. And I guess the other advantage is, you mentioned before how you had run for a year and a half. This campaign would be much shorter since Judge Gray entered late into it. Yeah,
absolutely. And the other thing is what Judge Gray also understood that I didn't think others did, and I think most don't. And I kind of get why you didn't, because you've already done something similar. But no one else has run in the last 10 years, maybe 20 years, with the exception of Gary Johnson. No one else has run a big L libertarian as large as mine. Right? I ran the largest big L libertarian campaign in the last 4 years, since Gary Johnson, obviously, right?
Right.
So presidential is always bigger than a local. So I can't fight the presidential ones. And you've been through one of those already. I can't fight that. Mine was local, right? It was a state level.
Yep.
Nothing was larger. No one raised more money. No one got more people motivated. No one got more votes locally. I mean, my state's 18 million people, right?
Yeah.
62 counties. So only person who actually, I believe, was able to go, oh my God, I need to use Larry Sharpe, his knowledge, what he's done. And it was a 4-way race when I ran too, like it'll be now. Mm-hmm. So I have the most modern experience in doing this. So why wouldn't I want to support our presidential candidate and give them all the knowledge that I learned in my team that I have? Yeah. So that's why.
And I'd like to also mention, you made a really good point about having to, when you run for VP, you're not running for president.
Right.
And that was the nice thing about running with Harry Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And what a lot of people don't realize, because I've been asked about some specific candidates. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to name them here, but I've had some people specifically ask me, well, if so-and-so ran, would you be the VP? And I mean, I've had like backers, of other people ask me that. And my answer has always been no, because and one of them even said, well, heck, you can just run your own show. Maybe you can even outshine the presidential candidate. And
Terrible idea.
No, I've already done that before. When I was Harry Brown's candidate, running mate, I got on all these radio shows and people would ask me, well, Harry Brown says this. I was basically having to justify, and I hate to use the word justify, so let me clear that up in a minute.
I say defend.
But I would, what?
I would say the word defend. I defend.
Yes, defend. Oh, thank you.
Yes.
That's a much better term. Yep. So I was put in a position in which I had to defend Harry Brown's position. And first of all, they didn't care what my position was.
Correct. Yes.
And secondly, being VP to a person who you can't personally support philosophically, practically,
yes,
that would be miserable, because you're having to go around. Now I am going to use the word justify instead of defend. Now you are going to have to go around and justify something that you don't agree with or you don't believe in. So I completely understand. And that's why I loved being Harry Brown's candidate, because I agreed with him. The one thing that I loved about Harry Brown and what I'm trying to do in my campaign is he stuck to the platform, plank by plank by plank. But he was practical about it. He didn't give the 1970s, it's my money and I should be able to keep it. I should be able to spend it,
Yes.
So it was so easy to be his VP nominee. I agreed with him, right down the line. So Harry really made my job easy. So I completely, I'm glad you gave the answer that you said it would depend on who the presidential candidate is, because so many people, yes, I want to be VP no matter who it is. It's like, okay, you do not know what you're getting into.
But not just that. I don't want this to be a vanity run, right? If I wanted a vanity run, I would have already run. I'd run against AOC. AOC is my congressperson. Literally.
Oh, she represents you. Oh, okay.
Yes, she's literally my congressperson, right?
Okay.
If I wanted a vanity run,
I thought you meant like you were voting for her.
No. Oh my God, no. But she's my congressperson, so I could run against her if I wanted to. It's the perfect vanity run, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a perfect vanity run. I'll never win. I'll waste people's money, but I'll get press because she gets press. It's the perfect vanity run. I'm not going to do that. It's a waste of people's time and money.
Well, but she managed to get, I don't know. She managed to get the nomination, and she was running against one of the most powerful people.
She had tons of money behind her, like there's no tomorrow. She had a ton of money behind her.
That money.
There was a PAC running out of DC that threw millions at her. She had tons of money behind her.
And so they didn't, and I wasn't aware of that.
There was literally a Netflix special on it.
Oh,
literally.
awesome.
They actually pushed like 12 candidates. She was one of the 12. 2 of them won, or 3 of them won. She was but I give her something else. I don't believe in her policies. However, I want to give her credit where credit was due. She busted her rump for that seat. She knocked on every door. Her people knocked on my door. I mean, they literally
3 times, right?
They busted their rump for that seat. I will give them credit where credit is due. She did not just get it; she earned it.
Oh yeah, and well, her job, I understand she was a bartender, so she had plenty of time during the day when she could go do that. She wasn't working a 9 to 5 job. So, well, I'm just surprised because I know that the guy that she beat was, like behind Nancy Pelosi.
Correct.
And so I'm just surprised that they went after him.
Well, he was, and most people don't know this, but he was literally the poster child for the establishment. He didn't live in New York.
Right.
He lived in Virginia. Yes, he lived in Virginia, and he was running here because he was so establishment. He couldn't imagine that this upstart could beat her.
Right.
He just couldn't imagine it. So he did what he always did: ignored us. That's what he did, and lived in Virginia, and he knocked on no one's door, and he didn't bother doing anything. He went on. Yes,
royalty.
Yes, that's exactly what he was. He was the poster child, for establishment. And she was the poster child for a Bronx kid. Yeah, it was the perfect storm. That's why.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I knew that she, definitely a hard worker.
Yes, agreed.
At least, because I've heard stories that, for instance, Bernie Sanders got kicked out of the commune he lived in because he didn't do his fair share of the work.
She wouldn't be kicked out of the commune, at least.
Yeah, I get
there we go.
That she would actually be carrying her fair. I hate that term. She would be carrying her fair share of the commune, I think, if she were in it. So,
absolutely. So look, that's I think the thing that you and I can kind of really agree and understand the idea of what the VP is.
Yes.
Which, by the way, there's only been one VP forum, and they wanted to do a debate. I didn't want to do a debate. I wanted to do a forum, and I said I wouldn't show up if it was debate. I would only show up if it was a forum. And the reason is we're not debating our issues.
Yeah.
Right? We're not.
That's a good point.
We're not debating our issues. So why am I going to debate? In fact, one of the candidates tried to say, well, Judge Jim Gray wants this thing. I said, yeah, he does. And so why would you run on that? I'm not running.
Right. Right.
I'm not running. My job is to defend the presidential candidate, right? To get that person in the front, to make sure that when they need an attack dog and they don't want to do it, I'm the attack dog. When they need someone to go, well, what Jorgensen meant was, this is what she meant. That's my job, right? What she meant to say is this, right? That's my job. And that's why you and I are completely simpatico on that.
Yeah, well, and when you said one thing that you and I agree on, where I thought you were headed with that, was that we both have a practical nature about us. That both of us think that we need to sell the Libertarian Party for what it can do to other people, as opposed to, no, the platform says it's my money and I get to keep it. We do have a small disagreement in that I do follow the platform a little closer, but we both agree on we need to give a practical face to the Libertarian Party.
Absolutely.
A practical face as to how we can help Americans get what they want.
If we do that, we will absolutely make impact. Well, Jo, I want to say thank you so much for coming. I mean, this was amazing.
Thanks for having me. I
think it was great. And for those of you who want more, please head over to joj2020.com. And as always, guys, please like, share, comment, let people know. Even if you came in late, rewatch it, share it with others, let people know what's going on. There's a lot going on. I know I often focus on local, but I also focus at the top of the ticket. I'm not one of those people who says we have to focus on one or the other. We should focus on all of them. They're all valuable. They're all getting a message out, and different people are going to come to us in different ways. So thank you again, Jo. I appreciate you coming aboard.
Well, thanks so much, Larry. Great to see you.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Have a good day, evening. Bye.